Hello, my loves. You may remember me saying when I did my entire bookshelf organisation that I would be getting rid of a load of books. I said it would be a good opportunity to unhaul, to unload, to get rid of some books I was never going to read. And then I just never did that. I think as I was going through, like putting everything out, I was convincing myself that I was in fact going to read all of these books, or even books that I didn't like I was going to keep. I was being too kind. I was being a bit of a hoarder, a bit of a crow, if you will. That was silly of me. There are so many books on my shelf that I am not going to read, have no intention of reading, or have already read and know that I don't like, and so there's no point in me keeping them. And the problem I have is that my bookshelf is actually full at the moment. I just have stacks of books next to it for the overflowing books that I would like to be able to put on my shelf, but I can't because it's full of books that I don't want. I don't actually have that many that I need to put on, because I've still made the decision that I'm not going to be putting non-fiction on my bookshelf. That can just live in the stacks. I do like the aesthetic of having stacks of books, so I don't want to completely get rid of all of them, but I do have, I think it's like 7 or 8 fiction that I need to get on here. Some of them are a chunk and there is no room on here, and I would like to have space for further books to be added that like actually I want to be there. So you know what that means. Today we're gonna get rid of a load of books, and I promise I'm gonna be vicious this time. I am going to be getting rid of these books with abandon. I'm not even gonna think twice about it.
I was telling a lie.
We're gonna ask, am I ever gonna read that? Have I already read it? Did I just like it? Is it Alex Michaelides? I have one Alex Michaelides book on my shelf and I am gonna keep it purely so I can remember my rage. Whenever I need to feel anger, I can just look at that book and it'll come to me. But other than that, books that I did not like, we'll be getting rid of. Bin. I'm quite excited. Are you excited? Get excited. The aftermath of it and trying to sort it all out, I'm not. But as of right now, I'm quite excited. So let's get into it. I don't really know how I'm gonna do this. Do I just start at the top and go through? Yeah, okay. Now I actually have to stand up and do stuff. I'm less excited. How did I film myself standing up last time I did this? I don't remember what I put my camera on. You're on a chair at the moment and it's not working very well. What did I do? I do not remember how I did it before, but this is what we're working with right now, and I feel really small. So, also welcome to the top of my bookshelf and my accidental Admiral Nelson shrine. Just ignore that. I actually don't think there's anything through here that we're going to want to get rid of, but let's have a look. I completely lied. Bunny is here. I'm getting rid of Bunny. I talked about Bunny in my tier list ranking for last year, so if you want like more thoughts and opinions on why I dislike this book, then definitely go and watch that. I was just really not a fan of this. I was expecting to really like it, and I don't know if I just didn't get it or if it just like wasn't for me, because I know a lot of people really liked this book, but I did not. I didn't really care about any of the characters. I didn't really understand what was going on. I was quite bored, honestly, which is not what I would expect from a book like this. So bin. I've just realized I'm gonna have to rearrange everything as well after doing this. One book down. Do I get rid of the Atlas 6? I only have the first 2. I am never going to buy the last one because I've read them all. I did say I was going to be ruthless. I did say I was going to be ruthless, didn't I? Really? Okay, while I deliberate on that, these 2 right here. The Black Dog by Kevin Bridges. I got this in a blind date with a book from the works. From when I was organising my bookshelf. Kevin Bridges is a comedian in the UK. I don't really know if he's well known outside of that. I didn't know he'd read books.
Oh, so you think you're better than me just because you can read?
I don't think I'm ever going to read it because like he's okay as a stand-up comedian. I'll watch him if he's like on a panel show or something. He's quite good on Would I Lie to You actually. But I just don't really have any interest in reading a book by him. I feel like if I'm going to read a book written by a celebrity or a comedian, it's going to be because I like them. And I don't feel like I know enough about him or like him. I wouldn't have chosen to buy this. Yeah, so this is going. And then also next to it, I think this is, I don't know where I got this from. Oh, maybe I won't actually. You know what? I was gonna say this, Shot in the Dark by Anna Britton. I was like, yeah, this is gonna go. It's actually not, because one of my like soft goals for the year is to try and work out if I actually like thrillers or not, because I think I don't, but then the only thrillers I've really read are Alex Michaelides. So, and like years and years ago when I was a teenager, James Patterson, which I don't think really counts. I was going to get rid of this, but I actually am going to keep it. And I promise I'm going to be vicious this time. I am going to be getting rid of these books with abandon. I'm not even going to think twice about it. For now, I'm going to keep the Olivie Blake. We'll come back to it and see, but for right now, I'm going to keep it. Oh, this is going Harlan, Coben, The Stranger. This is a thriller, actually, and I didn't like this either. I think I read this when I was like first just getting back into reading. Again, not really sure I like thrillers. I don't remember anything about this book. Does his wife go missing? But he meets a stranger in a bar and then she is like all mysterious and she tells him something. Either his wife is missing or he then doesn't know if he like knows his wife based on whatever this secret is. I don't really remember, but I don't think I particularly enjoyed it. I'm never going to read it again, so bin. I fear editing Nikki is going to end up overusing that clip of me saying bin from my tier list video, so apologies in advance for that, but I can tell I'm going to do that. Spirited. What is this book? Oh, I feel like I kind of liked this book, actually. I don't remember when I read this. Spirited by Julie Cohen. I think this was like Victorian, a woman who is a photographer, but she can like capture ghosts in the footage. And like everyone thinks she's just like a fraud and faking it because there was a lot of people doing that around that time, like in real life. And then she meets a medium who's like, you absolutely can actually capture spirits, and they like team up. And then I don't really remember what happens after that, but I think this was quite good. I might actually reread this, so this is not going. Okay, that is the first layer of shelves done. Like, I've looked across all of these and I've only got rid of 3 books, so we're not doing great so far. Bear in mind we may come back and get rid of the Atlas 6 books, but like half of this bit over here is the start of Charles Dickens, and obviously I'm not getting rid of any of that, so maybe I'll come back and get rid of this. I don't know. Let's move down. I don't know how I'm going to move you down, but let's move down. Immediately I can see a book I want to get rid of here. Oh my god, if I can fucking get it out. I'm having to kneel for this, by the way. My knees are not what they once were, so this hurts. But Exciting Times by Nersha? Louise? I don't know how to say this person's name, sorry. I bought this in Lidl or Aldi. I think they had like a load of books that were quite cheap. Oh, do I want to read this? I'm going to be vicious this time. Getting rid of these books with abandon. I'm not even going to think twice about it. Actually, maybe I do want to read this. I feel like this is my issue, right? As soon as I read a blurb, I'm like, oh, maybe I should keep that actually. And then I just don't get around to them. What I need to do, because I think the issue is I don't come and look at my bookshelves very often. When I'm thinking about what I want to read next, I already have a bit of an idea of what I want to read in my mind. I need to force myself in some way, do some sort of challenge of reading at least 1 to 2 books from my physical bookshelf every month. I need to do that. I'm going to figure out some way to do that. Maybe we'll do that together. I think a lot of us have that problem sometimes, so get back to me on that. For now, I am going to keep this. This just sounds like the kind of story where I don't imagine there's going to be much plot. A woman called Ava lives in Ireland. She moves, start a business, but then she meets a lot of people along the way, and it seems like she's going to like develop these different connections and just kind of, I was going to say coming of age, but I don't mean that. But you know what I mean? Like coming of age, but for like older people, like adulthood. What is that called? I don't really know. It feels like it's going to be that, and maybe that's the kind of thing I need at the moment and this year, honestly. So I'm actually not going to get rid of this. Sorry, I couldn't kneel for that long. My knees are too old at this point. So I just got all of the books from the second shelf that I don't want, and we're just going to talk through why I don't want them. The first is Exit West. You may remember I really did not like this book. I actually got really quite angry at this book. The reason I really didn't like this book was the writing style. It just really bothered me how long the sentences were, how many times and was used in a sentence to just make it get longer and longer. That's a style, that's a choice, do what you want. Some people might really like that. I just personally didn't. To me, it felt like it was trying really hard to be like saying a lot more than it actually was, and I feel like it just kind of detracted from the story, because I think the story was actually kind of interesting if I remember correctly. There was these magic doors opening up throughout the world, and like people were fleeing like bad situations or like war-torn countries. I can't remember what country it was set in, but there was a war going on, and the war was like slowly taking over the place they lived in, and they were like trying to flee. The story was actually interesting. I just abhorred the writing style so much that I was so glad when this book was over. So that is going bin. The next is the Dubrovnik Book Club by Eva Glyn. I got this from the works. I think I picked this, like, okay, you know when you're in the work, you're looking at a 3 for $6 deal, which I think now it's more expensive now, isn't it? It's like 3 for $7 now. They've raised the prices, which is quite rude. You're looking at the 3 for $6 deal. There's like one book you really want, another book you'll kind of want, like you'll get it because it's there, but you haven't been like jonesing for it, you know? And then there's one book that you're like, I just need one more to finish this deal, so I'll get something that looks vaguely interesting. And that was this. It's about a woman who, from the looks of it, moves to Croatia. She joins a book club, and then they read like a crime thrillery book, and then they start solving a crime. I think that's what it seems like it is from the blurb, which I think, you know, could be interesting. The thing I've learned from reading books like that, where it's like unlikely people coming to solve crimes, is I don't really enjoy it. I find it too difficult to suspend reality and to be able to just put myself in the book and be like, it's fine that you guys literally wouldn't know how to do that. It's fine that you guys who are just normal people would be able to solve this crime, even though like people who are trained to solve the crime can't. I find it really difficult to ignore that. So I think this probably could be like a nice cozy little read, maybe a little holiday read. I don't go on holiday, so it's not for me. Then we have a book that I have actually read and really did not like. That is Immortal Dark by Tigest Girma. Tigest. I don't know how to say that name either. I'm very sorry. I think I would have talked about this in my tier listing as well. So if you want full thoughts and opinions, go watch that. Unfortunately, wasn't for me. I know, again, this is like a reasonably popular book. It just wasn't for me. It doesn't mean it's bad. I just did not particularly like it. So this is 100% going. And then I've also read this Witch Bottle by Tom Fletcher. I did actually quite like this book. I think it wasn't like a favorite. I think it was maybe like a 3-star. This is a horror about a milkman. I think he's a milkman, and then he starts having these like nightmares, and then like weird things are just happening in the town. People start acting a bit weird, and then they start finding these witch bottles in places. I do remember the conclusion of this, but I remember the conclusion being quite confusing, and it was like one of those books that I finished it and was like, what's happening, what? But like in a good way. I haven't really thought about it at all since finishing it, which is why I am gonna get rid of it. But it by no means was a bad book. It was enjoyable. It was different to what I would normally read, but it was still kind of like weird, creepy, a little bit gross horror, which I quite liked. So I would actually recommend this. I just won't be keeping it. Bin. Then we have 10 Dates by Rachel Dove. I do not remember how this came to be in my possession. I think this was either another unfortunate blind date with a book from the works, or potentially it was also from Aldi or Lidl. I don't remember. It seems like it would be like quite an easy to read little contemporary romance about a couple who've been together for a really long time, and then there's a car crash and the woman Alice loses her memory. She gets amnesia and she cannot remember her partner Callum, and like the premise is like he says he'll take her on 10 dates, that he'll recreate their first 10 dates so that she can fall in love with him again, because she doesn't remember him. All that she remembers is he's really annoying. It sounds like it could be cute, maybe fun, easy read. There's something about it that's like not calling to me, you know. I feel like I would only pick this up if this is gonna sound so rude, if I literally had nothing else to read, and I have so many other books that pique my interest more than this one that I feel like it's just a waste kind of keeping it. So I'm sorry. We've really not got rid of as many books as I thought we would, and we're like halfway through the shelves. Am I not being ruthless enough?
No.
There are some books here, like this, for example. Murder in the Moggies of Magpie Road. This was definitely from the works, and this is definitely another one that was like, I just need to get the 3 for $6 deal. I'm gonna be honest, the reason I'm keeping this is because it has Magpie in the title, and I know that's just the name of the road. I think it has like a group of people and cats. Yeah, solve a murder. And it just seems like a cozy murder mystery. I also don't think I'm a fan of murder mysteries, but again, that's something I want to work out if I am a fan of or not. So I am gonna keep this. I think this could be a maybe. I think there's a few things on here that I've been like, maybe I could get rid of that. There's also a few books on here that I'm like, I don't actually remember if I've read that or not. Like this, for example, The Gifts by Liz Hyder. I have no recollection of if I've read this. I don't think I have. Oh, I haven't, and I actually really want to read this. I've had this for a while. It's set in the 1840s. A young woman staggers alone through a forest in Shropshire as a huge pair of impossible wings rip themselves from her shoulders. I mentioned recently that I want to reread Hush Hush this year, and I do. I'm actually going to reread it soon, in fact. But I think that has just made me be like, Fallen Angels. Let's get back to that. Absolutely. It's like awoken something in me that I forgot was really interesting. And this sounds like it could be like that. And it's set in the 1840s. So I have not read this. I am going to keep this. This is also another maybe, I've just realised. One Last Chance by Sarah Jost. My brain is telling me to say that as Yost. It's not Yost. It might be Yost, who knows. This is like another little contemporary romance. I also have no recollection of where I got this from. A woman, Lou, she loves this guy. He then announces he's engaged to someone else. She then ends up living out alternate versions of her life, and she keeps running into one person. And she realises that the greatest love stories aren't the ones we expect, but the ones we choose to fight for. And I don't know why that gave me the vibe of no one is gonna get this reference. Maybe someone will, I don't know. In Me and My Dick, when Joey's heart says, sometimes your true love is the person you initially disliked. And I don't think that's the vibe it's supposed to be giving, but it's giving me enough of that vibe that I want to keep this. And to be honest, right, I feel like I'm wary to read contemporary romance from most authors, honestly, because a lot of the time I find myself kind of disappointed by it unless it's Ali Hazelwood, and I feel like I do need to expand outside of Ali Hazelwood, so I'd like to keep at least one contemporary romance that is not Ali. I think this one's gonna be it, I think, but this could also be a maybe I'll get rid of this, maybe I'll keep it, I don't know. I'm not even gonna think twice about it. Okay, let's look through the second to last shelf. I'm keeping The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I just want to remember my rage. I'm keeping it to fuel that, no other reason. This is one I'm not sure about. The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden. I've not read a single Frida McFadden book. I know this is not the first book. The first book is The Housemaid, and I don't think they had The Housemaid in the works, but again, I got this in the 3 for 6. Like, it was at the time when The Housemaid was really big and a lot of people were talking about it. I've since heard not great things about her writing. She kept randomly seeing videos of her on TikTok as well in her disguise. I didn't realize she like wore a disguise when she was out, so people wouldn't know who she was. But anyway, in my quest to discover whether I like thrillers or not, I thought, well, I'll get this, even though it's not the first one. Maybe I don't need to have read the first one. Maybe I probably should. And then we'll see if I like that or not. But that could still mean that it's just her books I don't like, because a lot of people I've seen don't like her books. So I'm really conflicted about whether to get rid of this or not. I thought I was going to when I was like thinking of books that were definitely gonna go in the bin, but I don't know. You guys can decide for me. I'm leaving this on my shelf at the moment. Should I keep this book? Should I get rid of it? If you've read any of her books, knowing the kind of things I like, do you think I would like it? Tell me whether to keep this or not, and also tell me if I need to read the first one first. Okay, there's only 2 other books on this shelf that I know I'm definitely gonna get rid of. They're both books I've already read. The first one is Portrait of a Thief. I read this year before last, I think, 2024. I think it was like one of the last books I read of the year. This is about a group of people doing a heist. Essentially, they're hired to do a heist all separately, and they sort of develop these relationships between each other, these friendships. It's very high stakes, obviously. They have to go and steal something from like a really prestigious art gallery, despite none of them having any experience in heisting, but they all have different specialities. I think mostly in like tech and stuff like that, and they get employed to do this heist, and they all say yeah sure because they need the money. I have a feeling they might all be students. This was okay. It wasn't amazing, wasn't awful. I found it difficult to connect with some of the characters. Liked some of them. I found certain parts of the writing a bit repetitive in terms of like descriptions being used frequently for the same things. This feels like it was probably a 3-star. I know I'm never going to reread this, and so I don't feel like I need to keep it. And then the other one, which I actually wasn't sure about, but I think I'm going to get rid of Bright Young Women as well, by Jessica Knoll. I've read this and quite enjoyed it. I don't really remember a lot about it other than that. Is it Ted Bundy? I think it's based on Ted Bundy, which I did not clock until they mentioned something about Zac Efron. I'm not a true crime girly. I used to be very many years ago, but I don't consume that kind of media anymore. It's just not really something I enjoy. So I kind of didn't clock that it was about Ted Bundy. I did enjoy this though. I know there are some conflicting opinions on people's thoughts on the author using a lot of real victims information or stories in this book, so I don't know if like my thoughts are skewed by the fact that I didn't know that when I read it. I think I rated this 4 stars. I just know I'm never going to reread it. It's just going to sit there when someone else could be reading it, you know? So I just don't feel like there's much point me keeping it. Bin. Okay, I've gone through the last shelf independently, so you don't have to see me like hobbling over to try and look at stuff. There's less here than I thought. I've also taken a few from higher shelves. Actually, the one I was looking up, I realised I'd missed. So this isn't quite as ruthless as I was expecting. I think we've got less than 20 books here. But anyway, the first is The Mitford Secret by Jessica Fellowes. I have read this. This is a murder mystery set in like a very wealthy estate with this family. There was multiple in this series before this one that I had not read. I still, for the most part, understood what was going on when I read it. I don't know if maybe because I hadn't read the previous ones, I did not really care about the family that much. I can't remember who dies in it. Yeah, a maid dies in the house and a psychic comes and tells them that, and then they have to try and figure out who it was. And I think the person whose like lens we look through for the most part is actually a private detective. She just happens to be friends with these people and she predominantly solves the murder. This was higher up on the shelf, but I missed it when I was looking through. I like glanced at it and then thought it was a different book. Goodbye. Also another one I kind of looked at and I was like, oh, okay, no, maybe I'll keep that. This is Nothing Left Unsaid by Jane Godley. No clue where this came from, could not tell you. We get like 2 timelines in this. There's a daughter in like the now times whose mum is gonna die, but the mum's like, I need to tell you something before I go. And then we get the mum's story of when she was younger and like something happened. Something bad happened to the mum's friends and they all like banded together. That's the vibe I'm getting. Maybe they killed someone, I don't know. But I have no interest in reading this, honestly. I think the moral of the story is, because I'm assuming most of these ones that I'm like, I have no recollection where they came from. I think most of them probably came from the works when I was just like, these are all so cheap, so I'm just gonna buy them. I need to stop doing that. I have been better at that. I haven't done that for quite a long time, but that is the moral of the story. Then we have A House of Hollow by Krystal Sutherland. I read this relatively recently and I've talked about it relatively recently. Again, this will be in my tier ranking and I think one of my wrap-ups as well. I did actually talk about this book quite a lot. I went on quite a long rant about this book, didn't I? Yeah, I did. This wasn't that bad, honestly. This is like fairy tale, 3 sisters, one of the sisters goes missing, there's maybe something dark magical going on and the other 2 sisters have to work out what it is. And I personally got quite annoyed at certain things that I'm not going to go on about again. The story itself was fine, it wasn't awful. I just know I am literally never going to think about this book or read it again. There is no point in taking up space on my shelf. Bin. Then we have the Ex Hex by Erin Stirling. I read this so long ago. I feel like this was one of the first books I read when I was like properly getting back into reading and maybe even probably starting this channel. How time flies. I have not thought about this book since. This is like a classic contemporary witchy magic romance where like the main character and the love interest were like involved many years ago, then they broke up, she was really upset about it so she cursed him and he moved away, but then he comes back and they realize that the curse is affecting other things, so then they have to like try and work together to break the curse. It was fine. Do you know what? As far as I remember, it was a fun little time. Nice, easy read. I don't think I had any complaints about it. I just don't need to own it anymore. Strange Shallow Diamond by Liz Nugent. Is this a thriller, I suppose? I guess. It is a thriller. We have Sally as like our main character. She's strange or weird. She had a very difficult childhood, which has led to like her not developing. So she appears like quite childlike. The way she thinks, the way she talks is very different to other people. And then I can't remember how this man is related to her, but like he's like her father figure essentially dies. And he'd always said to her, like, when I go, just put me in the bin. Like, just, like, no fanfare, just put me in the bin. So she does that, and everyone's really upset that she does that. And she's like, I'm just doing what he asked. But then there's, like, a load of attention and media on her. And basically, just throughout the book, we discover, like, more of her past life, her childhood, and, like, other people involved in it. I actually quite enjoyed this. So maybe I, in fact, don't hate thrillers. This is just a book that I'm like, I don't feel any emotional connection to it. I don't feel any emotional attachment to it. There's no sentimentality here. Is that the word? Sure. I don't need it. It was a fun time while it lasted, but it was a transient one. And it doesn't need to go past that. From the next book, my other lesson here is to stop doing the blind date with a book from the works. I haven't seen them do this for a very long time, but when the works do a blind date with a book, essentially they're just trying to get rid of old stock that they've not sold. It's a great way to get rid of their old stock, absolutely, because it's, you know, a blind date is always fun. When you don't know what you're buying, you just kind of, it's a little surprise. It's great. However, I've been burned too many times, and I think this is like the epitome of it. The Secrets of the Jam Factory Girls. What is this? This is from a whole series of books about the Jam Factory Girls. I personally just have no interest in finding out the secrets of the Jam Factory Girls. I knew immediately when I opened this, I was like, I'm not gonna read this, but I think I kept it because I was like, maybe I'll read it just because it's like a bizarre little premise for a book, and like maybe it'll be kind of funny, maybe it'll be silly, who knows, maybe I'll love the Jam Factory Girls, but I don't think I will. I think I've come to the conclusion that I'm never going to read this because I got this about 2 years ago, and every so often I'm like, oh yeah, the Jam Factory Girls, and then I forget about it. So bin. And then finally, the last book is Inkblood Sister Scribe by Emma Törzs. Törzs. I'm sorry, I also don't know how to pronounce that name. This is also a book I've read that I did not particularly like. I found this honestly kind of boring, kind of slow. It had a good premise of like magic being contained in books and this family being the ones to like look after the magic books as their like entire purpose in life. A very interesting premise. I don't know what, there was just something missing about it. I just didn't connect with it. I didn't enjoy it. It just wasn't for me. And therefore, I don't need it. I was just staring wistfully at the Atlas 6, which is up here, and thinking about whether I should get rid of it or not. I think I'm gonna. As much as part of me wants to reread that series to see if it would make sense more on a reread, I don't think I have it in me. Oh, maybe I should keep them just to be. Anyway, what I was gonna say is, upon looking at that, I did see Hellbent up here, which might be a surprise to some of you that I'm gonna get rid of it. The reason I'm gonna get rid of it is because it's the hardback, and I have the paperback over on my favorites bookshelf with the paperback of Ninth House. So I don't really know why I kept this up here, but I am also going to get rid of that because I don't need 2 copies of it, and I'd rather keep the paperback because I'm not really a fan of hardbacks, to be honest. It just means when the next one, what is it called again? I don't remember what the new one is, which I think is coming out this year. When that comes out, I'm going to have to wait for it to come out in paperback before I buy it, which is really annoying, but it's fine. So yeah, I am going to get rid of Hellbent because it is taking up a lot of room that it really doesn't need to when I already own the other one. I think I'm still very on the fence about the Atlas 6, but I think for now I'm gonna sit on it about it. Maybe I will get rid of it, but right now, no, fuck it, I'm getting rid of them. Like I said, I only have the first 2. I never bought the third one. I borrowed it from the library. One, it annoys me to have an incomplete series and I don't want to buy the third one. But also, I don't think it's likely that I'm ever going to reread these, unfortunately. They're very long books to get through, to reread just to check if I actually understand the story this time. I'm so sorry, Olivie. Oh, that is 20 books we have got rid of. Honestly, I was hoping it would be more, but in theory, that opens up space for 20 new books on my shelf. The issue is, now that I have whittled it down to these books, it's going to be more difficult to get rid of books in the future. So with that being said, I would say the majority of books on here I have not read. Or maybe it's like 50-50. I'm not really sure, but there's a good chunk of books I haven't read. So actually, as I go through them and read them, I will probably find ones that I don't like as much and don't want to keep hold of. I am thinking, with how many books I've realised I have on here that I have not read, that I do need to do some kind of challenge or way to force myself to actually read more of my physical books, because I have very much become a digital reader recently. I've just got so used to reading on my Kobo, so used to listening to audiobooks, that I almost kind of begrudge reading a physical book. And I know I actually enjoy the experience of reading physically. I do. I just find it a lot more convenient to read digitally, especially because like if I'm on the train or something like that, it's a lot easier to bring my Kobo than it is to bring a big book. But it's just a waste to have so many books that I have not read. If you guys have any ideas of ways to help me get through them, but also like maybe we could do it as a little challenge together, like I could maybe do a video every now and then of just making myself read books off my physical TBR. Some ideas that I have are I bring back out the randomized wheel. I used to use that to do it. Or me and my sibling were having a chat the other day where we were talking about how fun it would be to have like one of the little bingo ball dispenser things, and then if you like you get the ones where you can like crack it open, it's got paper in it. That could be quite fun. Something like that. Let me know if you'd be interested in something like that, or if you have any ideas of how I can help myself get through my physical TBRs. How do you get yourselves to do that? Because I know in the age of digital reading it is hard. You know, let's be honest here. Overconsumption is a problem when it comes to books. I hold my hands up and say I am well in that. As you can tell from the amount of times I said that I only bought books just because they were cheap, or I bought books just so that I could get the deal. So how do you guys get yourselves through your TBRs rather than like just continuing to buy more books? I would love to know any ideas, any thoughts, always welcome. That is all from me today though, so I hope wherever you are having a wonderful day, and I will see you guys soon. Bye. Oh, I've just remembered that now I need to organise all of this. I'm just surrounded by books and there's loads of gaps in my shelf.